I invite you to just relax. Close your eyes, rest in the presence, and hold space.
Namo Namah Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vigna Karadura Hamari. 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 Oh
Namaste. Welcome to our weekly online satsang. Satsang being a Sanskrit word that means literally community of truth. It describes a community of two or more people who come together who are on the path of awakening, the flowering of the heart, divine union. When we come together, even two of us, the divine is present in a special way. And we're strengthened exponentially just by sharing each other's presence and space. So thank you for being here tonight. It's so important. The world has been immersed in global insanity, rooted in competition, conflict, and war. And we need to shift, and we need to do it quickly, to a whole new earth. A whole new global civilization rooted in cooperation instead of competition, harmony instead of conflict, and peace instead of war. And we can do it when the collective consciousness of humanity itself shifts. When enough of us have individually awakened and our hearts have flowered, we believe the collective itself will ultimately shift into awakening and into love. When that happens, the world would change. Right now, it's one person at a time. Both each of us who consent to the journey, who begin to awaken authentically, it sends ripples out into the collective consciousness and makes it easier for others. So that's why we do this. Try to find a group near you that you resonate with, who consists of people who are on the path of awakening, hopefully who share some form of blessing or direct transmission of awakened consciousness. If you can't find one, start one. We have a 36-minute initiation video on our website. All you need to do is sit down with a friend or two and push the play button on your computer. 36 minutes later, everybody gets it, at least enough to begin, and everyone's initiated. And you'll feel the power of the presence. It's a very special little video, and you're welcome to use it any way you please. Other announcements? I don't think so. All right. Isn't that nice? Please join us. If you're here, I like to say, if you're here, raise your hand. But we invite everyone who's with us in these satsangs to transmit the flowering heart blessing to all who join us tonight and all who ever watch this video in the future. The flowering heart blessing is a form of blessing. There are blessings by other names like Shaktipat and Diksha and other things. This has a Sanskrit name, but it doesn't really matter. It's what it is. It's a direct transmission of divine presence, which is spirit, awakened consciousness, grace, and unconditional love that catalyzes the process of awakening and transformation in the receiver. And once you've received it once, you're initiated and activated, so everybody here tonight is soaking in it right now. In fact, whenever you watch this, if it's a year after we recorded this, you're soaking in the blessing right now. So if you take that in, just turn to the divine and say, use me. You don't need to know how or exactly what you're doing. Just invite the divine to pour through you the flowering heart blessing. And we've discovered that God is more than willing. If you're on Facebook Live, give us a heart or a thumbs up, a like or a love. We go in at the end and see your names and send you special blessings and hugs. If you're on Vimeo, then please just write something in the chat. Hi, it's George. Nice to see you. That's all. But we need a real name. Sometimes people use screen names. And we'll still send you a blessing, but we won't really know who you are. So that would be helpful. Okay. We're about to open it to questions and answers. But before we do, I like to give people time to think about it. Whenever you ask a question about something where you'd like more clarity or insight, the divine pours out inspiration through me and Suzanne to all of us, and everyone is strengthened, everyone is helped. If you've had a breakthrough or you just got fully enlightened or something, please share that. We'd like to know. Or even partially. Now, you can share insights, but the most important, interesting contributions are when people ask about something they're encountering or puzzling over in their own spiritual journey. So while you think about that, I'm going to read us a little article and some quotes from inspiringquotes.com, which you may recognize I do every week. A group of authors who write timely little articles and gather quotes to share that are inspiring. This one tonight is from someone we're familiar with. Joyce Chen, imagine that.
Third week in a row.
Joyce is a writer, editor, and community builder based in Seattle, Washington, and we seem to have a rapport with Joyce. Thank you for this. So here's what she says about relaxing and slowing down. Life is all about balance. Hard work, play hard, that sort of thing. But where can we fit relaxation into that busy go, go, go equation? The dictionary definition of relax is aspirational and healing. Quote, to make or become less tense or anxious, unquote. For some folks, relaxation takes the form of zoning out in front of a TV. For others, gardening or tending to the house offers calming effects. Whatever your chosen method of relaxation, whether it be time spent horizontal in a hammock or pressing pause on work to stroll through the neighborhood, rest should be a built-in part of everyone's daily routine. So when deadlines and to-dos start to feel overwhelming, take these 15 quotes about the importance of relaxation to heart. Remember, this life is beautiful but brief, and it's crucial to pause and de-stress every once in a while so as not to miss the smaller moments that make all the work worthwhile. So here's our first quote. There is more to life than increasing its speed. Mahatma Gandhi. Taking time to do nothing often brings everything into perspective. Do Zantamata, author. The time to relax is when you don't have time for it. Sidney J. Harris, journalist. It's not the daily increase, but the daily decrease. Hack away at the inessentials. Bruce Lee. Tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are. Chinese proverb. We're so busy watching out for what's just ahead of us that we don't take time to enjoy where we are. Bill Watterson, creator of Calvin and Hobbes. Calm mind brings inner strength and self-confidence. So that's very important for good health. Dalai Lama. Every now and then, go away. Have a little relaxation. For when you come back to your work, your judgment will be surer. Leonardo da Vinci. Sometimes, the most productive thing that you can do is to step outside and do nothing. relax, and enjoy nature. Melanie Charlene, author. It's a good idea always to do something relaxing prior to making an important decision in your life. Did you catch that? It's a good idea always to do something relaxing prior to making an important decision in your life. Paulo Coelho, author. I promise you, nothing is as chaotic as it seems. Nothing is worth diminishing your health. Nothing is worth poisoning yourself into stress, anxiety, and fear. Steve Maraboli, author. Turn off your mind, relax, and float downstream. John Lennon. Rule number 1 is don't sweat the small stuff. Rule number 2 is it's all small stuff. Robert Elliott, author. Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Lao Tzu. Take rest. A field that has rested gives bountiful crop. Ovid Roman, priest. Those were nice. Okay, back to our questions.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah. Tristan is kicking off the ball. My first question is, Tristan asks, my first question is a red cheek one. In regards to who we are intimate with. If one person whose aura is clean, even golden, has strong spiritual practice, sleeps with someone who has multiple partners and uses different substances, what is the outcome? What do they teach in Taoism and Christianity and Hinduism? It's a good question.
It is a good question.
Do you want to start it?
Need a minute to think about it.
I can tell you that there is a difference in the way that these three spiritual traditions, Taoism, Christianity, and Hinduism, look at someone having intimate relations with a person who has multiple partners or having multiple partners. There tends to be a certain judgment in Christianity toward certainly having multiple partners, having partners outside of a life commitment to each other. And there's actually a scripture that addresses this very thing you're pointing at that says, do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. Meaning, if you've got a golden aura and you're established in spiritual practice, don't become yoked with a person who has multiple partners and uses drugs. I mean, that's what Christianity would say. Because that's an unequal yoking, and down the road, unless that one who's into multiple partners and using substances transforms, there's going to be probably a parting of the way at some point. But you see, in Taoism and Hinduism, there's no moral judgment. There's just discernment. My Taoist master, for instance, he said, Michael, one at a time. I was younger, stupid, and that was very clear what he meant. One at a time. Okay, and was that some kind of a moral, religious thing? No. I mean, the Taoist monks are celibate in the temple. Once they leave, and vegetarian, they were celibate and vegetarian in my master's temple, the Yellow Dragon Temple on Lufushan. But when the monks, and they often at some point in their life would leave the temple and go back to being among the people, to heal, to share herbs, to teach, they were free immediately. They no longer needed to be celibate, and they often would eat the same food other people ate and would eat meat. I thought, wow, that's weird. They had this high vibe of total celibacy and veganism, and they would leave that. But you see, there was no moral judgment about any of that. All Sifu said about it is one at a time. And I think, if you go through enough life, you learn that's just sanity. That's just common sense. Now, in Hinduism, there's actually, there are certain yogic traditions, Kundalini Maithuna, a kind of Kundalini yoga that uses sexual intimacy to awaken Kundalini together with the partner and raise it up through the chakras into awakened states. And in that case, multiple partners are often engaged. And there's no moral judgment about it, but they still have a sense of fidelity to their marriage partner, to their life partner. So the view is different, but I think this specific question, someone that's in a very pure spiritual state and has a strong spiritual practice, to join their life with someone whose energy field is much denser and darker, they're going to share that energy, that darkness. So it depends on how strong that one is that's got the clear aura. But it doesn't seem wise. It seems wise to be, from taking that Christian quote, to be equally yoked, to be joined with someone that shares your spiritual passion.
My question would be, why were these two people drawn together? What is the attraction? What is the relationship like? I would need more information to give more of an informed response to this question.
But given some of the other questions you've asked in the past, it seems like one of the partners is just not spiritually disciplined and is messing around with different people sexually and experimenting with substances to try to raise consciousness. And it's like, no judgment. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us maybe went through something like that at some point in our lives. But as we grow spiritually, more and more the focus is on the divine presence, not substances. Unless you're in a shamanic tradition, which you bring that up in the next question. So might as well go on.
Oh, I want to
go ahead.
Also, too, I think that opposites can really learn from each other, and I think if one person is saying that they're in a very high state of consciousness, but they're still drawn to somebody that doesn't have their kind of consciousness, that could also be to watch out for the pitfalls of it coming from ego. Because if we're drawn to somebody else, there's probably still stuff in us that we need to resolve, or we need to experience, or we need to embrace that we're seeing in the other person. So I always tend to kind of look towards myself before saying, I'm this way and that other person's this way. Mm-hmm. I don't know, in any situation. And I try not to, I don't really think of my life and my spiritual growth in terms of density or higher consciousness, or I'm just a bozo on the bus trying to get through the day the best I can and be the best human being that I can be in each moment, and don't focus on what level of consciousness I'm at, what color's my aura, because we're all human, so it's room for growth.
That's true, and I could give you a list of masters who are supposedly enlightened, who at a certain point in their path broke their vow of celibacy and began to have relations with their disciples. That's a big no-no. But it does show there's something that the master has to work on in himself. There's something in the second chakra probably going on that hasn't been cleared. So it's an opportunity for growth, but is it a wise idea? No. I mean, that kind of thing is inauspicious. So that kind of union is very auspicious for the one who's sort of still in a denser state of life. It's very auspicious to be able to connect with someone whose energy is ascending. It might not be so auspicious for the one whose energy is ascending. So it takes discernment, really. And it's not a moral judgment. It's like, is this auspicious or inauspicious? Is this helping these people, or is it throwing a big wrench in the works? My teacher said, if you want your energy to grow and your energy to rise, hang out in environments that have good energy, where the energy's rising. If you hang out in bars and opium dens, you're probably not going to grow spiritually that much.
I don't know. I've grown spiritually going out dancing with friends in a bar.
Opium dens?
No, but where are those? They still have opium dens.
I threw that in there because I knew you couldn't negate that one, but I'm sure they still have them actually in the Far East in certain places. But yeah. Second question. I was listening to a podcast about the staggering amount of people in countries that practice occult and fuse that with Christianity and saints. The stats in Ghana, Brazil, Mexico, India, Pakistan, of the highest. In regards to that, how can we discern occultism disguised as enlightenment? There seems to be a reality warp, parentheses, sorcerer shaman, in every culture. I'm half Native American, Plains Cree, and half Cambodian descent. And I have chosen the Siddha Yoga path, lineage. Well, I don't want to go quickly to the sorcerer shaman. Many shamans are very pure and represent the ancient religions where the shaman was like a priest, but by another name, who stood between the people and the spirit world and raised their issues and concerns to the spirits, and then brought the grace of the spirit world to help them. That can be very pure. Sorcerer is usually a bit more problematic because that usually refers to using spiritual energy to manipulate the world and other people. But that said, how about practicing the occult and then fusing that with Christianity and saints? Yeah, there's a lot of that all over. I used to live in Mexico. I used to live in South America. I grew up in the Tampa Bay area of Florida, where the population, the Hispanic population, when I first came here over 60 years ago, was heavily Cuban. And Santeria was a very, very strong spiritual current in Cuba. And then you've got Macumba and Candomblé in Brazil, and you have Voodoo in Haiti, and you have some similar stuff in Mexico. I think it helps to understand what happened there. A lot of these populations were slaves who were brought from Africa. And they already had their own spiritual tradition, which is generally called Yoruba. And forms of Yoruba became Santeria, Macumba, Candomblé, Voodoo, etc. But these people were very oppressed, and they were brought here by slave traders who were largely Catholic, and forbid them to observe their own religions and their own rituals. So they they joined the names of their deities, or rishas, or santos, with Catholic saints. So there may be a candle of the Virgin Mary, but really who's being worshipped is the ocean goddess, and etc. So that became sort of a hidden, clandestine aspect, which wasn't really true to Catholicism, but nor was it totally true to Yoruba, I think. And plus, they were so oppressed. Yoruba has like at least 500 orishas or deities. At the high end is Olodumare. Olodumare is like the Great Spirit or God the Father. I mean, it doesn't get more pure and transcendent than that. And Olodumare has his own priesthood within the Yoruban flow. Okay, but then there are all these other deities, and down toward the bottom of the scale are out and out monsters and demons that are called orishas also. Oh, there's a big difference between like a dark spirit and Olodumare, or the Great Spirit, or God. But it gets kind of confused. So at any rate, all those different santos or orishas have their own priesthood still. And if you were brought over here as a slave, and these white Catholics were oppressing you and forbidding you to observe your religion, well, sometimes the result was revenge, and they would invoke the lower spirits to have revenge on the people around them and to try to... So that became the darker expressions of Santeria and voodoo and Candomblé and things like that. So we've seen a lot of that in the West. And it's what it is. I think it needs to be understood. I respect the Yoruban spiritual tradition. I don't entirely agree with it. In that tradition, you are either saved or you're not. There's no redemption. You're either one of the good guys or you're not. And I'm all about mercy and new beginnings and transformation, you know.
Well, on the flip side too, Christianity, when they would go into different cultures and countries, they would try and blend the local, you know, like Easter.
Yeah.
Easter bunnies and, you know,
Christmas
hot cross
trees.
buns and Christmas trees. And
All pagan worship elements.
right. So it was to bring in, you know, the pagan people and support their tradition during holidays and throwing in Christianity with it.
But it was wiser than that. They would say, okay, so you worship the tree. Well, good for you. You've been seeking the highest and truest spirit. And we're here to tell you that what you were seeking in the tree is fulfilled in God. And all those
put a star on it.
and the Easter eggs and the hot cross buns. I mean, you had the right intention, but here's the fulfillment. And then they would take those symbols and integrate it into certain aspects of the Mass and other parts of their religion. It's caused, down the road, I don't know if that was wise. It's caused a lot of confusion. Now, there's another question here. How can we discern occultism disguised as enlightenment? There is within Christianity, there's no such thing as enlightenment apart from divine union. There's no discussion. It's all about divine union. But outside of the Christian tradition, you could be called enlightened in some traditions and have no relationship with God per se. So enlightenment and divine union are nice when they go together. But there are those who have mixed up occultism with enlightenment. If you have enough occult knowledge, enough magical power, then maybe you can declare yourself enlightened. That's the path of knowledge and power. And probably knowledge is a two-edged sword, but when you mix knowledge with power, what's the motive? And that's our problem. So I think you could discern it, because and occultism is not just something I'm condemning. I mean, occult means hidden. There are aspects of the Christian mystical tradition that are esoteric, and you don't get to hear it and learn it until you've made some progress on your spiritual path. But occultism usually refers to the use of rituals, talismans, invocation of spirits, to try to get what you want out of life, to get what you want out of other people, and to manipulate the natural forces around us. Whereas on the path of enlightenment, the one who would want to do any of that is dissolved. The self, the separate self, is gone. So there isn't anyone wanting to control other people. The enlightened sage is happy to just let nature do its thing. Like Lao Tzu said, nature's not in a hurry and yet nothing is undone. Yeah. So I think that's a very important discernment. And sometimes when people that have been in a mix of a path that focuses exclusively on the divine, and that could be Hinduism too. It could even be a very pure form of Tao or Buddhism, but when that's been mixed up with the genuine occult, where the door was open to spirits to give power, and magical rituals to manipulate reality, when the soul reaches a point where I choose the light. I came to a place like that in my life. I was on the path of knowledge and power for some time and had grown profoundly. And one day there was a fork in the road, and the left-hand path was knowledge and power, and the right-hand path was love, devotion, surrender, and service to God. And I made a choice. And the next few years were rough because some of the spiritual forces I'd opened myself to weren't very happy to see me go. And anyway, I think you get the point. You have an interesting cultural background, and you're half Plains Cree Native American, you're half Cambodian descent, and you've chosen the Siddha Yoga tradition as your path, which is a very powerful yogic path from India, where Shaktipat is transmitted, and which is a siddhi. It's a yogic power to be able to do that awakens Kundalini in the receiver, and it begins to unfold and rise, opening doors to higher states of consciousness and all of that. So I see why you're asking all these questions. I would cleave to the light. I would cleave to God. I would let go of anything that aggrandizes your ego and makes you think you know so much and that you should use spiritual power to manipulate people. And even, that's something like that has happened, I'm sure not with the lineage that you're a part of, but Siddha Yoga has its own dangers because it's the yoga path that awakens supernatural powers in the yogi. There's a famous story, which I'll tell real quick. The senior disciple of Ramana Maharshi, who was probably the greatest God-realized saint of India in the last century, his senior student became an enlightened master and teacher in his own right, and someone told him there's this great Siddha in this place, and he's made an appearance, and he has all of the siddhis, all of the yogic powers that are described in the Vedic texts. And so he said, well, I got to go see this guy. So he seeks him out, and they're sitting there talking, and so I hear you have siddhis. And the Siddha master says, yes, I have all of the cities. And so he said, well, that's very interesting. Would you like me to show you? So the guy demonstrated me. He's levitating and flying and dematerial, doing all this amazing stuff. And Papaji, who's sort of the familiar name of this disciple of Ramana, said, well, let me ask you this. You have all the cities. Do you have mukti? Liberation. Do you have full liberation? And the Siddha yogi was absolutely honest. I have all the cities. I have all the powers. I have all these things. I do not have mukti. And Papaji said, would you like to? And he said, why, yes, of course. And so in just a flash, the twinkling of an eye, Papaji grabbed the Siddha's staff. This staff is more than symbolic. It was the link to his entire Siddha lineage. And he took the staff and he snapped it in two and threw it in the Ganges. The Siddha was horrified because his power was linked to that, his whole connection to his lineage. And Papaji said, if you really want to be enlightened, liberated, attain mukti, then live your life like a normal, humble man, and then maybe you can be liberated. See, this guy he had convinced himself that he was some great big deal because he had all these powers. And it wasn't that the powers were bad, it's that they had distracted him from the only thing that really mattered, is are you free? Are you awakened? Are you liberated from ego? And it turned out well, but I really like that story. More writes, greetings. In my country, Venezuela, they fused Catholicism with many saints, many different virgins and angels. Yep, for sure. Ekaterina writes, yes, I'm from Mexico, and I don't like the Santa Muerte, etc. Very low vibe. I agree. We have botanicas here, up and down the street. Because so many people have immigrated to our area from Mexico that practice that form. And there was this one botanic up the street, and right in the store window in front was the Grim Reaper, Santa Muerte, in a dark black robe with a scythe, one of those things you use to cut down wheat with a curved blade, in the window. And I went, well, that doesn't draw me. Yeah. Yeah, very low vibe. If you want your vibe to grow, hang out in good vibes. If you want to sink into the muck, hang out in the muck. Okay.
For me, at the end of the day, it all comes down to, is this bettering me? Is this making me more surrendered to the divine? Is this supporting me? Or is it something that I'm interested or drawn to because of power, control, deep buried issues? Because, anything that is centered in the heart is not going to be coming from a place that is trying to manipulate or control or harm others.
Yeah, and don't think you can hang out in a crack house and not be dragged down. The energy itself is just... And there are other scenes I could describe that I don't want to. Various kinds of trafficking that is just evil. And it's best to stay away from evil if you really want to merge with God. Okay. Maury writes, today I felt very connected with spirit, deep grace and love while hearing music all day.
Beautiful.
Yep. And Maury says, yes, it's a mirror.
Nice.
So, yeah. Okay.
Thanks for the questions and the conversation. It was very lively.
Tristan never pulls his punches. I appreciate that. No, really, I do.
Yeah.
Glad you're very direct and honest, and it raises questions that I think need to be answered. One of the reasons my master, who came from a tradition of yogic immortality, just like the Kriya Babaji lineage of India. The Taoist Chinese have their own immortals and all that. He said it's very rare for someone to attain that state of transcendence of death in their physical body at this time in history. Because basically we're living in cesspools. I mean, we're living in metropolitan areas, not high in the mountains in pure nature, and we're being exposed to all kinds of toxicity. And he said it's not just the physical toxicity, it's the psychic toxicity. And so it is important, to create good company. Okay, so let's close our eyes and open our hearts and invoke the Divine Presence. Begin to receive the presence that is pouring out to you right now, flooding out of your heart, for the fullness of the Divine Source dwells within you. It's pouring down from above. It's pouring out to you from every direction, above, below, front, back. God is pouring out light and grace. Receive it. This presence loves you unconditionally. There is no distance between you and the Divine. In your essence, you are one with the Divine Source. And the Divine wants to draw you deeply into the awareness of your essential union. Just let go and let God flood you with light and grace. Receiving. This Divine Presence knows exactly what you need and has the power, the love to transmit it to you. All you need to do now is receive. Divine Presence will dissolve your pain, will dissolve your unconscious program, will dissolve your wrong thinking, and replace it all with divinely inspired ideas and plans and feelings. Let it flood your body right now and heal you. There is no greater healer Divine itself. And it yearns to give you these things, to give you healing, if you will just allow it and receive. presence that is pouring out to you. Now you could relax your hands, your whole body. As we begin the light meditation, when you're ready, open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me. And we're flooded during the light meditation with ocean of light and life and grace, and it floods through every fiber of our being to you, especially through our eyes, the windows of the soul. All you need to do is keep looking. Gaze at least one of our eyes. The divine will do the rest. The light will stream out through our eyes, in through your eyes, into your heart of hearts, to cause the light of awakening and the fires of divine love to burn brighter and brighter and brighter within. meditate with us a few more minutes as the grace settles. Now keep meditating as long as it feels good. Or find a place to lie down nearby in Shavasana. That's to lie on your back with your eyes closed comfortably, with your arms loosely at your sides, with your palms open and turned upward. And just let yourself dissolve with gratitude of the presence. We love you very much.
Much love, light, and blessings.
Till we meet again, know that the divine within us beholds the divine in you, and we bow to you.
Namaste.
Namaste.